Hiya, folks. Welcome to the next edition of Serverless Craic. It's myself, Dave Anderson, author, contributor at the Serverless Age, and technical fellow for Bazaar Voice.
Mark McCann, architect of Globalization Partners, author and contributor at Serverless Edge.
And Michael O'Reilly, architect with Globalization Partners and contributor with Serverless Edge. Hello.
Right. So we're going to continue our conversation on modern cloud. We've got a couple of previous episodes there on overview on the CEO's perspective, the chief product person's perspective. I figured we'd look at the developer's perspective today. And this kind of ties in with our next best action or bias for action. I think one of the things there's a couple of things you could put in here. I think as a developer, there's a certain environment that you need to be in. And one of the things that we always found really useful was that ability to wordly map your tech stack. This is something that's been around for a while, but certainly we found in the past that when you sit down with developers, they don't know what's working and what's not working. But when you actually map out the tech stack, it's very easy to spot things that are maybe in the wrong place.
Mm-hmm.
I think also in the modern cloud, because capabilities are evolving and emerging really rapidly, mapping out your tech stack and understanding what's available in a modern cloud environment is very valuable, because then you can have a conversation with your teams and yourself, and if you're just doing it by yourself, about, well, what are the components of my tech stack, and is there a more advanced modern cloud capability that I can take advantage of, right? So is there a serverless capability or managed service capability that can offload some of the burden that we have in our tech stack? So like a lot of the stuff with wordly mapping, who are your users, what are their needs, what am I doing to meet those needs? And if you go down through your value chain of components in your tech stack, do you really need to do a lot of those things? Can you just leverage DynamoDB or step functions or some other sort of more evolved modern cloud capability to meet those needs?
Yeah, I think it's really good. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
I'm going to say there's two different parts that are interesting. There was always the user of your application, and I would Google map your tech stack if you want to kind of see more about it. But there's a user of your application and the components, and there's two things that are interesting. Number one, you maybe spend an awful lot of time in your login framework and realize it's way low down in the stack. Nobody really cares, but it's important. And the second thing is there might be something that's in the custom place, and you might think, well, yeah, that's really complicated. We're spending a lot of time doing that. But then, as you said, Mark, there's maybe a more evolved version of that. We say we're using this custom MySQL database that we installed ourselves. Okay, well, let's maybe just use a cloud native equivalent, and that's a more evolved version. So it's what does that capability evolve to, which sometimes is hard to see it from within the team.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, and I just kind of adding a couple of extra points in this, what you guys were saying is, I think that's a cracking exercise to actually involve business people or product people in as well, maybe who don't really understand the full value stream, because typically what can happen in certain organizations or scenarios is investment is done at the UI or UX level, and we want to change this field, but they don't really understand the level of complexity that's really down in there. And that map can be a really good sort of vehicle to have a conversation about, well, look, we would like some investment to replace this legacy part of the platform, and with the mapping, you can't change everything there and then or that week, but certainly what you can do is you can begin to path a road towards those things. So it's a good way to be able to set goals and then look for opportunities, to apply, work towards those goals, what you have described. So for me, I always used to like doing those, very early on with squads, and then really look at, what opportunities could we see throughout the year, and then what are the areas that we really need to seek investment in for modernization, or, be able to kind of move this up a level, so it's a really, really good kind of approach to that, to have a really joined up holistic conversation.
Yeah, it also keeps you grounded in the real needs of your users, because in the modern cloud, it's like a kid in a sweet shop. If you're technically minded, right, all these capabilities are available to you that you can start to explore and leverage, right? But the map helps keep you focused on, do you actually need this?
And the more of those maps that you do, the more, the more tricks you learn, like, so then you start to look at, well, what skills does someone need to have to work on this particular part of the value stream, and how much investment does the organization put into building individuals with those skills? Could we, you look at the full kind of value stream, and then you start to realize, okay, well, actually, I'm getting more of a conversation on the broader pictures. But if we move more towards this commodity, we'd be able to kind of recruit those skills easier into the org and not have that investment, and be able to kind of move faster. So there's really that, like, as a technique, I can't speak of this one highly enough.
Yeah, and I think as well, having that conversation as a team, what you're implicitly doing is putting the concept of evolutionary architecture into everyone's head, that it's okay that we're going to keep changing these things, and we're not going to be a sunk cost fallacy that we hang on to something for years because we built it, and then what you also want from that tech stack is rapid delivery. You want your engineers to be able to deliver features on the production quickly.
Yeah.
And there's lots of ways you can do that. I mean, one way is by using decent developer patterns, or maybe even CDK patterns, something like that.
Yeah, those composable building blocks are critical for rapid delivery. And I think in the modern cloud, and as we talked about with the when you're talking about a product leader's needs and from a CEO's needs, speed is key. So you need to have well proved patterns that you can sort of compose your solution from. So I think with the emergence of infrastructure as code, with the emergence of CDK, SAM, and other sort of infrastructure as code capabilities, you can really bring together all your expertise and patternize it, make it available to your teams so that they can rapidly stand up. Well, here's our single page app pattern. Oh, let's take that building block and deploy it. Oh, here's how we're going to stand up an API gateway that connects to a NoSQL database that has a step functions in the middle to do sort of workflow. You can have patterns for those things, and the pattern collections have exploded over the last couple of years as well. So there's in the modern cloud, you should be able to find a pretty well proven pattern that you can leverage or customize to your needs and you're very rapidly then delivering value.
Exactly. Just use someone else's boilerplate code and spend all your time in design and discovery. I mean, like, rapid delivery is massive, but then you also, sometimes people think rapid means per. If you're going to build those patterns, then you need to build quality in. And we always thought about having a high standard of technical excellence. So you want to make sure that those patterns have quality attributes built in as well, whatever those are.
Yeah, I think with the speed, if you don't have the quality baked in, it's just going to fall apart very, very rapidly, right, very quickly. So if you're not baking engineering excellence in, if you're not doing your unit testing, integration testing, security scanning, logging and audit traceability as part of your automated pipeline, you can't go fast, right?
Yeah, I think what we've been talking about is, obviously we're talking about like modern cloud and things like serverless and leveraging managed services, and and that means a lot of things shift left, and there's a lot of then responsibility on the squad to be able to assemble these things in certain ways to meet certain standards, say within an organization, and that over time, building up squads is a huge sort of aspect to it. And I think in previous sort of conversations, we've talked about like the score process, supporting teams with, creating like a nice psychologically safe environment to learn, but setting themselves up for success where, we kind of talk about opportunities to tighten something up or sort of improve on, say, reliability or stability, and we do it in a very open kind of way, and that all feeds back into our our patterns and our run books and our playbooks, and as a group, as a collective, we become stronger, way more effective. So processes, we talk continuously about well architected, and but then doing it more frequently on a, we talk about that SCORP process, and helping teams just assess, well, where are we? What are we, are we happy with how things are? What could we be doing? What could we be doing better? And I think that is super important in modern cloud environments. Certainly, and recently, building new squads, you start off with the basics, right? Get your observability, and that takes time, and you will go slow. But it's amazing, after maybe month 1, month 2, you begin to see that velocity can begin to creep, and then before you know it, you're 10x what you were before you started, and you've got all the confidence in the world. And the engineers are just very empowered. They're very creative. Dave, you mentioned earlier about the continuous architecture. That having that confidence just to pivot because you've got everything you need to sort of confidently make those pivots and really embrace continuous architecture in a rapid kind of delivery way. So
I think alongside that is the investment in continuous education. In the modern cloud, things move fast. New features and capabilities, are emerging every day. So with all these processes, the score process, the well-architected reviews, the being aware of what's available to you is a constant thing that you need to be aware of. So as a developer, you got to really invest in continuous education, continuous learning. Like we've all benefited massively from following the right people on Twitter and and watching some of these YouTube channels and videos as well. But it pays dividends because the things that are being, especially if you have mapped your tech stack and you have this situational awareness, those features that are being announced today, if you are leveraging modern cloud properly, you can apply them tomorrow. And that is a massive differentiator for your team and for your business.
And there's a whole piece here where these things work together. If you have a cloud stack, and there's lots of developers have to deal with, maybe old stuff, monolith, blah blah blah. If you have a modern cloud stack, then you're asking your developers to go fast and to build quality in, and you're supporting them by training them. And that SCORP process, SCORP, that we call our well-architected process, is actually investing in the team to help them create as best as an application as they can. That all fits together. And guess what? Happy developers. It's like Nicole Forrest Green said in her Accelerate Group book. If you invest in your team, make them go fast and make it safe, then employee engagement shoots up. So it's all good, but it's quite hard to explain all those things because people just see it as an endless stack of money that needs to be spent. But the business benefit is huge, comes out the other end of it.
Really?
So it's good fun. But so that's the crack anyway. That's our kind of developer sort of slant, which is the one that we could probably talk about all day. So we'll keep talking next time. Come have a look at the blog at theserverlessedge.com or give us a follow on Twitter at serverlessedge. The book is now out for pre-order, The Flywheel Effect, from all good booksellers, Amazon and Barnes & Noble. All right. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.